The moment fight fans never thought they'd see two legends, two teammates, two dominant forces in mixed martial arts stepping into the cage against each other. Khabib Nurmagomedov, the undefeated, relentless grappler who smothered every opponent in his path, against Daniel Cormier, the former two-division champion with Olympic-level wrestling and knockout power. They trained together, built a brotherhood, and stood in each other's corners through wars. But what happens when iron sharpens iron one last time, not in the gym, but under the bright lights, with the world watching? No one imagined this fight could ever happen. Khabib had retired, undefeated, untouched, walking away with a perfect record and an unshaken legacy. Cormier had done the same, cementing his place in history as one of the greatest heavyweights and light heavyweights the sport had ever seen. Yet, whispers began to spread. Debates flared up on podcasts, in locker rooms, and across social media. Who would win? The wrestler who drowned opponents in relentless pressure, or the powerhouse who could ragdoll giants? It was just a fantasy matchup until both men agreed to settle it. Inside the gym, they had pushed each other beyond their limits. Khabib sharpened his skills by grappling with a bigger, stronger Cormier. DC, in turn, fine-tuned his wrestling, testing himself against Khabib's suffocating control. But training rounds were one thing. A fight, that was a different world. When word got out that they were actually considering stepping into the cage for real, the MMA world exploded. Was it an exhibition? A friendly contest? Or would two of the most dominant champions in UFC history actually go to war? The press conference only fueled the fire. They sat side by side, the mutual respect clear, but beneath the smiles and jokes, there was something else. A question neither of them had ever dared to answer: who was truly the best. Khabib dismissed the idea that weight class mattered, insisting that technique and pressure would break anyone, no matter their size. Cormier laughed it off, reminding the world that he had fought and beaten men far larger than himself. But when the cameras were off and the microphones were put away, the air between them changed. The fight was real. As fight night approached, the tension became undeniable. This wasn't just about skill or dominance. This was personal, even if neither would admit it. For years, they had been training partners, but now one of them had to lose. For Khabib, his entire legacy was built on an unblemished record. He had never tasted defeat, never even shown a moment of weakness. For Cormier, this was a chance to remind the world that he was still a force, still the same man who had tossed heavyweights like they were nothing. The weight difference loomed over the matchup. Could Khabib, who had spent his career at lightweight, impose his will on a man who had conquered heavyweight monsters? Could Cormier, carrying more power, land a shot that would change everything? The wrestling pedigree of both men was undeniable, but how would it translate when they had to use it against each other? The moment they stepped into the cage, everything changed. The friendly banter was gone. The years of training together, the shared victories, the brotherhood, it all faded. Now, it was just them, locked in, ready to find out what neither of them had ever dared to ask. The referee signaled the start, and in an instant, the world held its breath. The first few moments were a battle of patience. Neither man rushed in recklessly, both fully aware that a single mistake could spell disaster. Khabib circled, light on his feet despite the size disadvantage, his eyes locked onto Cormier's every movement. DC, stockier, but deceptively quick, kept his hands high, waiting for an opening. The crowd murmured, anticipation crackling through the arena. Then Khabib moved. He shot forward, faking a takedown, but Cormier didn't bite. Years of wrestling had trained his instincts. He knew Khabib's game too well. A quick sprawl, a shift in position, and DC countered, pushing forward with his weight. But Khabib was already slipping out, resetting before the bigger man could capitalize. It was a chess match in motion, two of the best grapplers in MMA history, testing each other with every step, every feint, every twitch of muscle. Then it happened. Khabib darted in again, But this time, he wasn't looking for a takedown. He launched a heavy overhand right. It cracked against DC's guard, surprising him. Khabib wasn't known for power striking, but he wasn't throwing just to land. He was setting something up. DC reacted instinctively, moving to counter, but that was exactly what Khabib had baited him into doing. In a flash, Khabib changed levels, wrapping his arms around DC's legs in a deep, committed shot. The arena erupted as he drove forward, forcing the heavyweight legend to stumble back. But Cormier wasn't easy to take down. He widened his base, fought for underhooks, and planted his feet. Khabib adjusted, angling his hips, searching for any leverage he could find. It was a battle of pure wrestling, raw strength against relentless technique. For a moment, it seemed like Cormier had defended it, but then, impossibly, Khabib adjusted again, cutting the angle with a trip. The crowd gasped. Cormier, one of the most decorated wrestlers in MMA, was suddenly on his back. The moment was shocking enough, but what happened next was even more unexpected. Instead of going straight for control, Khabib let DC scramble, and then he did something that no one saw coming. He pulled guard. Cormier hesitated for half a second, confused. Khabib had never been known for playing off his back. His entire career was built on top control, suffocating pressure, breaking his opponents piece by piece. Yet here he was, willingly pulling a former heavyweight champion into his guard. It was a trap. The second DC moved, Khabib's leg shot up, locking around his arm. The arena exploded. A triangle choke. Cormier realized the danger instantly, his years of experience kicking in. He postured up, trying to shake Khabib off, but the grip was tight. Khabib adjusted, tightening the hold, his body shifting for maximum leverage. For the first time, real danger crept into DC's eyes. He had fought submission specialists before, had trained with some of the best grapplers in the world, but this was different. This was Khabib. The seconds ticked by, the tension thick enough to crush the air out of the room. Cormier gritted his teeth, struggling to free himself, but Khabib wasn't letting go. The undefeated champion was moments away from doing the unthinkable, submitting a former heavyweight. The referee hovered nearby, ready to intervene if needed. And then, just as it seemed like the fight was over, Cormier made his move. Cormier's instincts took over. With the triangle choke tightening, his vision narrowing, he did the only thing that made sense. He lifted Khabib clean off the mat. The weight difference came into play in a way no one had expected. Cormier, with his heavyweight power, hoisted Khabib high above his head. For a split second, the undefeated champion hung in the air, legs locked around DC's neck, grip unrelenting. The crowd braced for impact. Then, with every ounce of strength he had left, Cormier slammed him down. The canvas shook. Khabib's hold loosened just enough for DC to yank himself free, gasping for breath. The moment was surreal. Never had anyone seen Khabib in trouble like this. He rolled, trying to reset, but Cormier pounced, pinning him with a crushing top game that had broken heavyweights before. The fight had flipped, but Khabib wasn't done. Even with Cormier pressing down, even with the exhaustion setting in, his mind worked like a machine. He didn't panic. He started inching toward the fence, using the little space he had to work. Cormier, knowing Khabib's ability to escape from anywhere, adjusted, trying to flatten him out. The seconds ticked by like hours. Then, the shift. Khabib exploded upward, using the cage to stand, turning into Cormier's grip and reversing the position. The crowd roared in disbelief. Khabib had just out-wrestled an Olympian in a pure strength battle. He drove forward, pressing DC against the cage, and this time, when he shot for the takedown, there was no stopping it. Cormier hit the mat again, but this time, there was no escape. Khabib moved like a predator, closing in, isolating an arm and slipping into mount. The energy in the arena was electric. Was Khabib about to submit a two-division champion? DC struggled, bridging, trying to shake Khabib off, but the grip was too tight. Then, another twist. Instead of chasing a submission, Khabib let go. He rose, backing away, motioning for Cormier to stand. The message was clear. This isn't how it ends. They had trained together, laughed together, bled together. This wasn't about dominance. It was about proving something deeper. Cormier, battered but unbroken, smiled through the exhaustion. He pushed himself up, shaking his head, knowing exactly what was coming. They met in the center of the cage. No more wrestling, no more traps. Just hands. The last minute was a blur of strikes, DC throwing looping shots, Khabib slipping and countering, both men fighting past the limits of exhaustion. The final bell rang. They stood, breathing hard, staring at each other. Then, laughter. Cormier wrapped his arm around Khabib, shaking his head. Khabib, always the man of few words, simply nodded. There was no need for a winner to be declared. The answer was already there, written in sweat and struggle. As they walked out of the cage, side by side, the debate continued. Who was truly the best? The fans would argue, analysts would dissect every second, but Khabib and Cormier knew the truth. Some fights aren't about winning or losing. Some are about respect, about pushing limits, about proving that even among legends, there's always another level.